Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm working today with the Holosun 503G. Okay, that's the red dot that has the ACSS reticle, and I have here a picture that I drew. Okay, this is what it's supposed to look like. Okay, a chevron with 3 dots underneath, and the idea is that basically, right now I have it mounted on a 22, on a Colt 22. Okay, and per the instructions, what you're supposed to do is basically the tip of the chevron goes at 50 yards. Okay, then the base of the chevron is at 100 yards, and then you have 125 yards, 150 yards, and then 175 yards. Okay, that's the idea. And the reason why I mounted this on a 22 rifle is because I wanted to actually see this in action. I mean, where I'm shooting at in the woods, I don't have 600 yards to shoot. If I was using this with a with an AR-15 that shoots 5.56, the tip would be 50 yards. Then the base over here would be I believe it's 300 yards, and then it's 400 yards, 500 yards, 600 yards. Okay, so that's what what it would be with 5.56. And if you use it with 7.62 by 3.9 or 300 blackout, then I believe that way it goes. That's 50 yards, that's 200 yards, and then I think that's like I forget exactly what the numbers are, but I think it's something like 250, 350, 450. I'm not 100% sure on that. So based on the caliber that you are shooting, this symbol means different things. Now, realistically, when you're shooting this at distance, unless you have 20/20 vision, the chevron is going to look more like this. Right? It's going to look more like a squiggly line, and then these 3 dots over here tend to blur into this. Okay, so the way I kind of use this is, using the tip easy. In fact, using the 2 tips is easier. Basically, if you're putting this underneath the spot you want to hit, or if you're putting this right over the spot you want to hit, that's the easiest way to use this. So when I was shooting at distance, when I was trying to shoot, let's say 125 yards, basically, you kind of have to guess where that red dot is, where that dot is over here. This one, I basically just put it somewhere in what appears to be the middle, okay, and then that one's not so hard to use, okay. So that's the reality of this. If you use this with a magnifier, then I haven't used it with a magnifier, but people tell me it tends to look more like that. To me, if I'm going to put a magnifier on it and add that extra weight, I might as well use a variable scope. Okay, so if I'm going to use this, I'm going to use this by itself, and basically I'm just going to learn to work with this sight picture here that I see. Okay, like I said, I mounted it on this Colt 22 because that gave me the opportunity to actually use the drop compensation. Okay, so I shot this. Basically, I have it zeroed in at 50 yards. Okay, and it shoots fine at 50 yards. And then when I shoot it at 100 yards, I get a nice grouping in the center. The best grouping I've gotten with this scope at 100 yards was a 3-inch group. Okay, that's the best grouping I've gotten with this rifle using that red dot. But that's like my best grouping. I mean, on average, I will hit somewhere between, I'll probably hit 4 to 5 inch group. Okay, so that's more realistic on what I will tend to do more on average with this. Okay, so I shoot a 4 to 5 inch group with this rifle using this red dot. So side. So I took it out to 150 yards. Okay, and at 150 yards, we're looking at the circles. Okay, we're ignoring these three dots here. Basically, the grouping at 150 yards is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 out of 10 at 150 yards. So not bad. I mean, I was pretty happy with that. From there, I decided to take it back to 175 yards. And, you know, for that extra 25 yards, pretty big difference. I mean, things get a lot harder. Out of a 10-shot group, basically, I get only 3 on the paper. 1, 2, 3. And even though they're pretty tightly, you know, they're relatively tight, but only 3 on the paper. And I've been working at this, you know, basically I did many groups. At 175 yards, it's pretty tough to get on the paper. I did, okay, I did this again at 150 yards, okay. Now, mind you, this is a 20-shot group. I did 20 shots, and I got 6 shots on the paper, okay. Now, if you look at my wind ribbons, the wind is pushing to the right now, and it's been kind of all over the place today. It's been pushing to the right at times. Right now, it's pushing to the left. A lot of times, it was pushing forward that way. I believe that when I shot this group, the wind was pushing forward, so it was accelerating, decelerating my shots. So I got this line right here, 6 out of 20 on this line. And I think part of the issue here is basically just the 22 long rifle itself. It's a pretty light round. I was shooting these Remingtons, golden bucket, 36 grain. It says that it's 1,400 feet per second high velocity. Okay. I did try shooting these CCIs, which are also 36 grains. But these are rated for a slower. This one says 1260, 1,260, and basically I couldn't get on the paper. I mean, I had sighted in this rifle with this ammunition, shooting at the 1,400 feet per second. So when I tried shooting this at the 175 yards, I couldn't get on the paper. I tried, I tried using the third dot. And I figured since this was slower, since that CCI ammo was running slower, I tried using the bottom. I actually put this on top of the paper. I mean, at 150 yards, this paper seems like a dot. So basically, I tried putting the bottom of this dot basically at the top of this paper to get hits, and I couldn't get any hits on the paper. So I would probably have to go back and re-zero the rifle at 150 yards. At 50 yards with that ammunition. But that was my experience. Now, one of the interesting things that I found is the wind is really pushing these bullets all over the place. Because, like I said, when I was shooting this group here, actually not with this group. When I was shooting, I did 20 rounds with this ammo, which is a little bit slower. And I found that what the wind actually did is, because I had a new board that I had basically standing up behind a tree, and from where I was shooting, the board was actually behind a tree about 2 feet over to the left, so I couldn't visibly see that board. And what happened is somewhere, I'm shooting 175 yards, about 75 yards in, which is where this board was. The wind actually shifted it and pushed it about 2 feet behind a tree that was not visible to me, and I put 2 bullets in that board at somewhere between 75 yards and 100 yards, so somewhere around the halfway point. So at the halfway point, some of these bullets actually shifted 2 feet over. So as you can imagine, trying to with the way the wind is actually blowing right now, it's really hard to get consistent shot groups. So with the 22 long rifle. So basically, I wanted to share that experience with you guys. It is fun and interesting to use this ACSS reticle with the 22s. Just because they are slower and they do drop faster, and you're able to actually use that drop compensator at shorter distances. and it's also fun trying to predict, the wind and what the wind's going to do to these bullets as they're flying through the air. I did another video on reading the wind, on basically hanging these wind ribbons and trying to read them and trying to figure out how they're going to affect your bullets and try to predict where you might need to shoot. So you guys can look that up and check it out. So post some comments, hit that thumbs up button. I'll talk to you guys next time.